Max Gorlin, Melbourne Football Club. You're listening to the Coaches Panel.
This is Nat Fyfe from the Fremantle Footy Club.
Trent Cotchin from the Richmond Footy Club.
Scott Pendlebury from the Collingwood Football Club. You're listening to the Coaches Panel.
Patrick Cooch from the Carlton Footy Club.
It's Rory Sloane here from the Adelaide Crows.
This is Tom Mitchell from the Hawthorn Footy Club, and you're listening to the Coaches Panel.
Hey friends, you got MJ from the Coaches Panel. I hope you're well and enjoying yourself through this year's 50 most relevant. Not only are we into the top 10, we are now down into the single digits of the players left to be revealed. Number 9, let's be honest, a couple of days ago, I pretty much gave away he was coming into the 50. Braydon Preuss is who we're talking about. And it's felt a long time since we've had Kane on this. So we had to get him back in. Hello, mate. It's good to see you again.
It's great to see you, MJ. You're doing a mountain of work. I don't know how you're still going. It feels like you're running a marathon, I can imagine. You're nearly there.
We're
These
nearly
are the last
there.
few miles. And I think this is a guy that's maybe a little bit more straightforward than some of the other guys we've chatted about. And I know the other ones you've done throughout the 50, because at the price, which is, I guess, where we have to start, we have to put it in that terms, really, don't we? Because when you're talking salary cap, it's not like a draft. It's not, we'll get him at this point. He's going to average this. Is he even a fieldable ruck? Like, we're putting it through the caveat of his price. And he's dirt cheap. We all know why he's dirt cheap. He hasn't played much footy.
No.
He's at his third club. There seems to be opportunity there, but
yes,
is there not? We'll dive into it.
Yeah, I think there's plenty to discuss about him. Still just the 26 years of age, which is crazy to think. It feels like Preuss is coming towards the end of his career because we've talked about him so much across fantasy circles. Career scores for him, you do have to go back to 2019. There's nothing from last year due to multiple setbacks, but against Carlton in 2019 is when he's had his career scores. It was a 108 in AFL Fantasy and DreamTeam and a 140 in SuperCoach. In that format, he's priced cheaper than Jason Horne-Francis. That's an important point that we'll spend some time on. $204,700. In AFL Fantasy, he's going to sit back just on $367K, and in DT, just a touch over $255,000. And Kane. I've talked to all of you.
I know I've been away a little bit, MJ. I know I've been away for a little bit, but my goodness.
I didn't call you Rids.
It's only taken 40. What is it? Geez, that's going to question my maths here. 41 podcasts you've done.
41 podcasts to
made
name a different panel member a different thing. So that's okay. I didn't call you Rids or Fox. So that's a positive
start
step
the 50 again, MJ. If you're going to make a mistake like that.
That's it. Start again, everybody.
Start over.
But I think the ruck line for me, I think I even said it on an episode with Rids, and that was who it was with, not with you, and I'm pretending it's Rids, it feels like this ruck line kind of picks itself in 2022. We could go through the numbers and the trends and the scoring of what he's done at Melbourne ruck sharing with Gawn, what he did at North Melbourne ruck sharing with Goldstein, and what he hasn't, because he's got a history of a couple of tons and a couple of 90+ scores across the format. The article at coachespanel.tv kind of goes through that. But as important as it is to see that he's got some scoring capacity, what we're really doing at R2 here is we're maximizing two things, aren't we? Maximizing cash generation and maximizing salary cap at the start of how we can best use what's been allocated to us. Is it too big of a statement that the ruck line picks itself across the formats in 2022?
Well, I think it just depends who you talk to, MJ. There's some people, and this is the funny thing with this game, is there's so many different ways to succeed.
Yeah.
And especially in the rucks, it seems to be an approach that people have had success with set and forget rucks. So what do you think they want to do in future seasons? They want to stick with set and forget. They want to say, I finished top 100. I had a career best year. And it was because I picked, just say in recent years, Gawn and Grundy. I picked that and I succeeded. So therefore, that's my approach.
Yep.
I'm going to pick the two best rucks. I'm going to lock them away and I feel good. I'm not going to touch that line again. I don't have to worry about this. They're not going to miss games. But that's a bit simplistic for mine. I still think at the end of the day, we need value. And I remember you mentioning it on a podcast. And again, you've done many. So I'm plucking this one out. You said last year Flynn was the answer.
Yeah,
Flynn was the answer. How well he was scoring. You wanted those points on field.
Yes.
You could have allocated money elsewhere and you would have got a better score. Now, we know Flynn wasn't a season-long keeper. He had some time where he was out of the side, but he was the right choice.
Yes.
When if you had him on field for those first few weeks in the season, he was scoring great, he was generating cash, and you would have been better placed having a premium in another line than having Gawn and Grundy.
I agree.
That was the answer. And that's the thing with these type of guys is, how long can you give me? Can you give me 6 weeks? Can you give me 7 weeks? And as we always say, are they better than what you're going to do at a mid-price or a high-end rookie, we'll call him as well, in another line? And I think that's why Preuss is super, super attractive to people, is that
I think so.
at what he's priced at and what we know number one rucks can do, and that's where we have to start working out, is he a number one ruck in that Giants team?
Yeah.
Is he a ruck sharing ruck? And clearly, if he's out of the side, then it's a really easy answer for us.
Totally.
But what we know about number one rucks is, and we saw it with Flynn for a while there, it is not out of the question to be 80 plus. It is not out of the question to be 85, 90 plus. And we're not asking for a season. We're asking for 6 to 8 weeks.
Yep, that's it.
To increase in cash, give us those points. And that's why it's exciting, because you start thinking about mid prices or, again, high-end rookies in other lines at that price.
Yeah.
Do you feel they have that upside? You know, people are picking guys like, let's say, Rowell and Caldwell.
Yeah.
And I think they're sort of setting the bar at, well, if they can give me 80, they can give me 80.
I'll take that.
I'm pretty happy. It bridges it. You know, it's more of an AFL fantasy play, but
sure,
as you've mentioned, the other games are going that way too.
Yeah.
SC and DT are giving us more trades.
Yep.
They're giving us more flexibility to move on. So all of a sudden you start thinking, if you're going to pay that for them and that's what your expectation,
that's right.
Why can't a Preuss give you that? That's why he's so relevant for me, is that I can't just say I'm picking the 2 big dogs.
Yeah.
Because that's what I do. I think if someone's presenting you that much value, and at the point of recording, we don't know who the number one ruck is.
Sure.
But you can only base your relevancy on the information you've got at this time of recording, MJ. And he is extremely relevant because it is not out of the question to deliver 80 plus. And 80 plus is enormous for his price. It
at
is
under
absolutely
250K in SuperCoach. He's cheaper. He is cheaper than the most expensive cash cow.
Yep.
In SuperCoach and in DreamTeam. He's less than 100,000 more expensive than Jason Horne-Francis in AFL fantasy. When I look at Preuss, there's a couple of things that I consider. Number one is this, and I think you articulated it really brilliantly around I always do this strategy, so I do this. If you've been playing this game for over a decade or give or take that long, when those expansion clubs of GWS and Gold Coast came in, the correct starting squad strategy in those years was to take the value ruck that was playing R1 in those teams in a Jonathan Giles and a Zach Smith. And it was a very, very comfortable structure where we went, they've got job security. They're going to play that position. Sure, injuries are a risk with every player. And it was very prominent to see someone go a Sandilands or Cox at R1 and one of these boys. We got that 2 years in a row. And arguably, I think we got something similar last year. So to say I'm a quote unquote set and forget man or a set and forget girl, and that's my strategy, you rule out something immediately that the game could offer you every single year. The other thing about it, and I'm keen on your reflection on both this and the subsequent point after it, Kane, is the reason you go set and forget rucks is because the best 2 options are clear and above better than everyone else. You're removing the headache. You don't think there's the right value and cash generation. So you go, I'm getting the best. And for the better part of the past decade, it's been Gawn, Grundy, Sandilands, Cox. There's been a few years of some other names floating through there, like a Goldstein or a Nick Nat, depending on the format you play. But for the most part, 5 years, Grundy, Gawn. 5 years prior, Sandilands, Cox. The reason you go set and forget is because they're clearly the best. I don't think you can build that narrative anymore that there is a clear top two that are so superlatively greater than the rest. Yep, I think Grundy's going to be the number one ruck comfortably. Then I go, Gawn should be very good. Maybe a little regression, but still very good. Is Darcy as good as he was in the whole season? I don't know. Is it O'Brien? Is it Marshall? I don't know. Is there close enough, good enough? It might just be. That's what we talked about right at the start of this 50 most relevant. Yourself and I were talking about, Rob, is his close enough, good enough? Because if it is, that 200K is hugely important. So for me, I look at the combination of cheap price, no like clear top level ruck, R1 and 2 set and forget. I can't not have Preuss as a viable option in my team right now.
Well, there's a few things there. The thing with set and forget, especially with those guys recently in Gawn and Grundy, is they're not just best in their line. For years, they were the best players in the comp,
That's
especially
true.
in SuperCoach. So
Yeah.
they entered a new tier of these guys are captaincy options. Like
Yeah.
Grundy was the number one DT player for some years when he was up over 120. You know, we know what Gawn was in the COVID year. Like that game could not have become more Max Gawn. As you mentioned, it's one of the greatest averages we've ever seen.
Yeah.
It was off the charts. So that was point one with set and forget, and maybe why recently it has been very, very successful. The thing that people don't talk about with set and forget, because it feels like it's a strategy that people hear and go, well, how does it fail? You know, you've got the two best rucks, you set for the year, you got no dramas.
Yeah.
Where it can fail is if you pick the two rucks that you think are the best, and guess what? Sometimes happens in fantasy, you can be wrong.
Yeah.
So imagine if you think it's Gawn and Grundy, and unfortunately it's Darcy, and he goes 110, and Gawn goes, just say 100.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden, 10 points a week, you're leaking.
Yeah.
You're leaking that a week. The reason it's not as dramatic in other lines when you're wrong is sometimes you miss on a mid.
Yes.
And you go, oh, well, you know, they just slide down to M8.
Sure.
And the disparity between them and some of the other options that will present over the year, because that's the thing with these mids. There's value that built in. I don't need him for 10, 12 weeks. I might only need him for 6. Like, who's that run home guy? We always talk about that.
That's
but
right.
unfortunately, when you lock in these rucks and you're wrong, and especially as you identified, there can be some risk, as I said, whether it's a Gawn regression, whether it's Darcy body, you know, whether it's Marshall, whether it's
Ruck
O'Brien,
share.
all these guys, you start thinking about that, you know, O'Brien nearly had a 110 season. Would it be mental to say that Gawn went at 95? Like, that's not terrible.
No.
It could be 15 points a week down. You know, in SuperCoach, the way Darcy tracks, he's shown 118. You know, that's gigantic. So all of a sudden, these things can get to be 15 and 20 points, and everyone else might have them. You know, maybe they take a Preuss on and they identify that, oh my God, it's Marshall's year. Marshall's flying. Ryder's gone down. You've locked yourself in, and now you're doing primo to primo. Whereas in a midfield line, you shuffle that premium that might be underperforming down, and you say, I worry about that last minute. I know you can say the same for the ruck.
That's true.
But if they've identified that player by having a rookie in that spot, their options are open. They can take anyone.
Yeah.
And the thing with that option too is maybe it's an O'Brien that cops an injury. Maybe he gets knocked out on 3 points, and you've got this bargain that presents itself, and you can bring them in. When you're locked in at set and forget, the whole point is you're forgetting it. You're not taking any value. So anything that comes your way, you can't pick up on those bargains because you're locked in. You know, in the mids, no one starts 8 mids. How many times is there a concussion, a score that we go, oh my God, this is just everyone's jumping on this player. Like, they're too good. They've had an injury score. It's about to roll out. You don't do that in the forward line and back line. You don't start 6 premiums.
No.
But when you do, and again, there is positives. There's a lot of people that have succeeded with set and forget.
Yeah.
But there is risk if there's any volatility, or if you make a mistake in picking who those top 2 guys are, because all of a sudden you're going, well, well, think about Riley O'Brien's breakout year, MJ.
Yeah.
How tricky does that get, right? You've got a guy that was rookie priced.
Yes.
You're locked in at two
that.
rucks. You're locked in at two rucks on field.
You're getting the cash, but you're missing the points. Yeah.
You're getting the points. And people are going, I've got Riley O'Brien at 120K on field going 90.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got a mid going, let's just say it was a Josh Kelly going 110.
Sure.
The converse for people had was, I've got Max Gawn as my ruck 2 going against Kelly. Let's just say they cancel each other out at 110.
Sure.
But they've got a mid rookie.
Yeah, they've got a
60s
60s going there. Yeah.
You're closed off to that option.
Correct.
And what's curious this year is, could Preuss be that guy that has that Riley O'Brien breakthrough? Maybe. But then there's some guys, Sam Hayes, Max Lynch.
Comden,
there's a lot of
Cherry
things that could be piling up. And when set and forget doesn't work, you're closed off. You're closed off to a lot of these options. You start going, in that year, I got to get Riley O'Brien on field. This is too many points. Like, he's a rookie. And now all of a sudden, it's not forget. You have to move it. You move a Gawn on. You sideways a Gawn to a midfielder. And maybe you DPP that ruck foot in. But that is the risk. That is the risk.
Yes.
That's why some people go, no, I want the rookie there. I want to have a look at the landscape. I want to see what's going on. I don't feel confident with two of them. Maybe you feel confident, like you said, with a Grundy. You go, no, he's one or two. He's one or two. But that's the only thing that is a little bit of downside. And the reason I bring it up is it favors Preuss.
Yeah.
You have a Preuss and it goes haywire in terms of he might explode.
Sure.
Okay, you've got him on field. You're getting those points. You're getting great value for money. If it fails, okay, maybe you've got a Sam Hayes on the bench playing. Maybe you've got someone else that's playing. And if not, maybe you do have to restructure. Maybe it's, okay, I need to get up. I need to get up to Gawn. I've got to get up. I've got to cull this other mid-pricer. Maybe you've got a premium that didn't have the role you thought. Maybe you think, I've just got to make this move. I've got to stabilize the side.
That's right.
Preuss is a liability. He's not in the team. I can't be copying a zero. And guess what? You just got to treat that like a fix-up trade.
Yeah.
And that's what you do with anything else. You got trades now. You got trades to fix it up. So for me, the upside feels greater taking the Preuss and being open to all these options quite simply than locking in this set and forget and not being able to touch any of these pieces of gold that might come through.
Yeah. I look at Preuss and agree with all of that. People are going, but what about Flynn? Cool. That's a really great point. Mark McGowan, one of the Herald Sun journalists, said that Preuss is certainly not at full fitness right now. He's coming off some severe surgery, just coming off the back of COVID too. That's well known. But he's there and thereabouts. He's in the mix. People are going, he's no lock to be the R1. Politely about Flynn, I'll put it to you this way. At numerous points in the year of 2021, he was not providing the GWS Giants what they needed as a pure ruck. So they went to a 35-year-old man who is coming back from a second retirement, who couldn't run, who couldn't do anything if the ball wasn't beyond a 5-meter radius of him. And he ended up being the number one ruck. He couldn't even play 4 games in a row, but Cameron just went, what he gives me at the contest is what I need. And so we will sacrifice defensively. We will sacrifice on the spread because in the contest and at the pressure point, I need it. Preuss
and the record was amazing, wasn't it, MJ? The games when Mumford was in, they barely lost the game. It was
so much better.
It was stark. You're spot on bringing up that because I think a lot of people forgot about that. That Mumford did have that impact. Like he lifted, and in full fairness to Flynn, AFL level is bloody exhausting. You're going up against the absolute best, and it does wear on you. And again, we know Preuss's body is an issue, but he's been in the system long enough. Again, I know people use it as a negative, but he's trained against Goldstein. He's trained against Gawn. You cannot undersell that exposure.
Yeah.
You know, Mumford's a guy that was just trying to get through the week. Like
That's
he would
right.
be doing nothing on the track. Just get him to game time. He'll give you everything he's got.
Yep.
As you said, the team lifted. The performances, for whatever reason, came on the back of it.
Mhm.
But it didn't speak much for Flynn, did it? When Mumford was insurance for multiple
No.
years and they kept breaking that glass and wheeling him out and he just kept fighting. But if Flynn was going to do what O'Brien did, when O'Brien said, no, this is my ruck department,
That's
and
right.
Mumford and Jacobs, was shipped off. Like he stamped himself, he proved himself. Flynn had that chance.
Yeah.
He just didn't do it, did he, MJ? And again,
No.
he'll get another chance this year, I'm sure. There'll be something
will.
that happens that gives him a chance. But we're not asking for 22 from Preuss. As I said, we're asking for probably 6. If we get 6, we're pretty
We're
happy.
right.
We've made our cash.
We've got
four
a
price. We've got 4
Darcy,
movements, MJ.
O'Brien. That's more than
We've got
enough.
4 price movements.
Yeah. And it gives us a chance to probably grab by round 6, depending on how your cash generation's going, a fallen premium in another line and a ruck. And it just becomes one of your primary moves. Conversely, he's dobbing out the 80s, 85s, maybe even a 90 for you over the first 8 weeks, 6 weeks. And you go, oh no, I can now actually jump on Tim Taranto, who we had the other day on the 50. He plays forward, could be the narrative. Toby Green comes back. Oh, I can get a cheap Green and X midfielder. I can hold on for 2 more weeks with Preuss. It, as you said, it just provides options. And once you've got options, you can be aggressive and make some moves. And that is one of the most important things you can do. For me, if he plays any practice or a Maynard Community Series, which we are banning that name now because we absolutely mozzed him. If he plays, even in a ruck forward role, for me, I'm picking him because he just does all the things that we've talked about right throughout this episode. I've locked him in. My format of rucks is exactly the same across every line, and it is Grundy, it is Preuss, and it is Hayes. For me, it feels like the easiest 3 picks, and it's overcomplicating it. Happy to hear other people's thoughts otherwise, and that's fine. But for me, it just feels so simple. Drafts is interesting where he goes, and I'm very keen on your take, Kane, both in a keeper and a single season is ultimately different, but it does feel it all is caveated around is utilities on, is it 2 rucks, and how many in your league? Because a ruck with 6 teams or 8 teams has a vastly different reliability and desire than what a 16 does, really, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, in all reality, MJ, he's not in the top 10 rucks. So if we start with most teams and leagues having 10 teams and 1 ruck on field, which is the most common, he's not in that territory. He's not in that territory. Now, if everything fell his way, could he get there? You know, you start getting to 80 and you're in that frame. So he's someone you could, but he's also someone that I'm getting mid depth, I'm getting back depth, I'm getting forward depth, and I'm just taking very, very late, like very, very late in the piece as an emergency to someone else. Like you're not going to get much more than maybe a fieldable type of guy. I don't see the upside bursting into the 85, 90 range across a season. And that's what it takes to compete with your Lysette's, your Nick Natanui's, you know, your Nane Curvises.
Yep.
So it doesn't seem like that's there. And even projecting further than that, I don't ever see him being above 85, 90. So really, he's a backup guy. He's sort of a nice compliment on your bench. But really, in most leagues, a lot of people just carry the 1 ruck, you know, just because they want depth in other lines. They want to play loopholes. He's probably someone that gets left in the pool in a few sort of situations, really. You know, maybe it's just the fixture. You know, if you've got if he plays early in the week, you put him on the emergency. If you like his score, you take it. But I think he's a streaming sort of guy. I just don't see the elevation in the game to be on the big dogs level. You know, even
Yep.
now, MJ, we go Gawn, Grundy, Darcy, Marshall, O'Brien, Nick Nat, Lysett, Goldstein, and then you got guys like Nankervis and English that have shown
Perfectly
potential.
fine
They've
towards
shown
the
more.
back.
So my point is, maybe if you're in a 16 team league, maybe you start thinking, okay, there's 18 clubs. He's better than Kim. I'll play him. You know, some of these teams do have a ruck share that's quite heavy. He's a late sort of guy. He's your 12th to 16th type of guy. And if anything, he's on your bench. And really after that, he's probably just a guy you play when needed off the waivers. I just don't see the upside to really. I'd rather take that flyer on the mids, backs, or forwards with someone that you think's got upside. And you can find it. Now, if you add utilities, MJ, clearly there's a little bit more value because there can be some ruck scarcity. Maybe it's a little bit more, but again, he's still for me in that. If he gets in the top 10, it's great. He's probably 80 plus for a season.
Sure.
But really, he's probably 12 to 16. So it's not really super draft relevant.
No, he'll be solid, but it won't probably make the difference for you all. Let's talk about tomorrow, though. We got another big name to drop. But Kane, you've been an absolute beast right throughout this season and series, and have been yet again and talking about Braydon Preuss. So thank you, mate.
No problem, MJ. No problem.
If you want to go read the article on him or any of the other players revealed so far, you can do it right now at coachespanel.tv. If you've been loving the content you're getting through the preseason from all of us here at the panel, there are 3 simple ways you can support the Coaches Panel. Number 1, tell a mate that plays fantasy footy about the Coaches Panel. Tell them and encourage them, hey, you've got to check out these podcasts, got to read these articles. Number 2 way you can support us, make sure you're followed, subscribed, and left a 5-star rating and review on wherever you get these podcasts. Or the 3rd, becoming a financial supporter and joining the Patreon supporter group for as little as $2 a month. You can get access to Cash League prizes, hidden content, exclusive groups, and a bunch of other stuff. All the links for that are at coachespanel.tv. Tomorrow, we hit the number 8. And I'm telling you right now, people are sleeping on this guy in some formats. In others, a no-brainer pick. They see him, they know what he can do, decision made. Other formats, they're talking themselves out because there's quote unquote nothing that I could get anywhere else. Really? I think he's one of the easiest picks in your starting squad for 2022. Who is he? You'll find out tomorrow in the 50 most relevant.